What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Spill the Real, the home of unfiltered conversations and a real-world truth right here on SugarWaterRadio.
Before we even get into today's show, we need to say this clearly: today is a sad day, a painful day, a day that should have never happened.
What went down in Minneapolis involving ICE has shaken people to the core.
Yeah.
A woman lost her life, and from the very start, the truth was blurred, minimized, and spun. While officials rushed to control the narrative, it was the people in the streets, everyday citizens with cameras, who showed the world what really happened.
It's 2026, and if you're rocking with us right now, you already know what time it is. This is the show where nothing's scripted, nothing's sugar-coated, and we don't play along when power tries to rewrite reality.
It's your hosts, Dana Lucen and Mark Miller, and today we're spilling the real on what the media won't say, what officials don't want questioned, and why this moment matters more than ever.
If you're new, welcome.
If you've been riding with us, you're already family.
This episode isn't light, it isn't comfortable, but it's necessary.
So wherever you're listening from, lock in, turn it up, and stay with us.
Because once the truth starts rolling, there's no editing it out.
Let's get into it.
Okay, so yeah, let's dive right in. The event we're focusing on today it's intense.
It is. We're looking at January 7, 2026, Minneapolis.
Yeah.
And it's one of those moments that just snowballed into something much bigger almost instantly.
Exactly. This isn't just about one incident. According to the sources we've been given, this became a battle over reality itself right from the start.
Yeah, about battle for the narrative. So our mission here for everyone listening is to be really clear about this. We're doing a detailed, impartial analysis.
Completely impartial. We're just looking at the source material. We want to understand what was claimed by officials, what was contradicted by evidence on the ground, and what the source is arguing about this collision.
A collision of power and truth. I think that phrase from the source, that's really the heart of our entire deep dive today.
It is. It's about how stories are built in a crisis, how they're deployed, and, how they're sometimes torn down.
And at the center of it all, we have to remember the tragic core of this, the reason we're even talking about this, the death of a woman named Renee Nicole Good.
Yeah, and the sources they're very specific about her. They lay out the baseline facts very deliberately.
And we need to start there, because everything else is built on top of who she was and what happened to her.
Right. Renee Nicole Good was 37 years old, a U.S. citizen, and she was killed by agents from ICE, Immigration and Customs Enforcement.
In broad daylight. That's a key detail. This wasn't hidden.
Not at all. And the most unsettling part of it right from the jump is her non-involvement. The sources just repeat this over and over.
She wasn't armed.
Not armed. She was not under investigation. And the operation itself, the reason ICE was even there, it had nothing to do with her.
That part is just staggering. An unarmed, uninvolved U.S. citizen. That's why this is so explosive. It's not a gray area.
It's not. And so you immediately get these two competing stories, these two streams of information that pop up almost at the same time.
You've got the official, coordinated federal response on one side.
And on the other, you have the organic, raw testimony coming from the street, from people who were there.
Which brings up the media's role, right? The source points out that whoever the media amplifies first, that kind of sets the national conversation.
Absolutely. It shapes everything. So that's why we have to start with the official story. We need to track how fast it came out and exactly what it said.
But first, you're right. We have to establish the human cost. Before we get into the politics, let's really establish who was lost.
So that brings us to our first section, the profile of the victim, Renee Nicole Good, and the scene of the incident.
The sources make a real point of this. They don't just say a woman died. They focus on her humanity.
They do. They say she was 37, a human being with a family, with dreams. And you can tell this is a deliberate choice in the source material. It's a way to contrast what came next.
What came next being the official narrative.
Exactly. A narrative that, as the source argues, tried to almost instantly dehumanize her by slapping a political label on her.
And the fact that gets repeated, the one we have to keep coming back to, is her non-involvement.
It's the core of it. She did nothing. She was not under investigation and, critically, not armed.
Why is that triple confirmation so important for the argument the source is making? It seems almost redundant, but it's clearly for a reason.
Well, because it sets the bar for justifying lethal force incredibly high. I mean, think about it. If federal agents kill someone who's armed, who is under indictment for a serious crime, the public conversation is different.
Sure, it's still a tragedy, but the context is completely different.
Right. But if they kill an unarmed citizen who isn't involved in any crime, who is just driving her car, The only acceptable response, legally and institutionally, has to be immediate, transparent accountability.
So her status as a total bystander changes everything.
Yep.
It means the government has to explain how their operation went so catastrophically wrong.
It's a massive failure. A failure of planning, a failure of execution, a failure of their use of force protocols, everything.
And she was just driving,
Yeah.
caught in the middle of a federal ICE operation that wasn't about her at all.
That's what the source says, collateral damage. And the result, to use the source's words, is that she paid the ultimate price.
Killed by federal agents.
Yeah.
In broad daylight.
Yeah. And that setting, the fact that it was so public, that's crucial. It means there were witnesses. It means there were cameras.
Right, which we're going to get into in a big way.
Yeah.
But that public setting also put a ton of pressure on the federal authorities to say something immediately.
100%. The source basically sets the scene this way. It was public. It was fatal. The victim was uninvolved. All of that created this immense pressure, which then, according to the source, triggered the narrative control effort.
They had to get ahead of it. They couldn't let the story of a reckless killing take hold.
So they had to replace it. And they replaced it with the narrative of self-defense.
Which brings us right to our second section. The federal government's immediate push to control the story. What stood out to me in the sources was the speed. I mean, how did they move that fast?
The speed is a huge part of the critique in the source material because it suggests that this wasn't a spontaneous reaction. It suggests preparation.
Like a script.
Exactly. The source literally says they leapt into action with a rehearsed narrative. It implies that for these high-risk operations, agencies like ICE, like DHS, they have playbooks. They have prepackaged explanations ready to go if things go wrong.
And the goal of that playbook isn't truth.
No. The goal is to protect the agency, to protect its people and its mission. That's priority number one, above all else.
So let's get into the specifics of that story they pushed out. The source breaks it down into three main claims.
Yeah, and they're laid out in a really logical way if your goal is to shift blame from the agent to the person who died.
What's the first one?
The first claim is the one you always hear in these cases, the procedural one. The officer acted in self-defense.
Okay, standard. What's the second?
The second provides the why. It's the justification. The vehicle was used as a weapon. This is a key move, because if a car becomes a weapon, then using lethal force against the driver becomes, in their view, justified.
It reframes the whole thing. But it's that third claim.
Yeah.
That's the one that takes this from a tragic incident to something else entirely, something much more political.
Oh, absolutely. The third claim was that this was an act of domestic terrorism.
And that, according to the source, is where this whole thing just explodes. It's not a local police chief talking. It's not an internal investigation. This declaration comes from the very, very top.
Kristi Noem, the Secretary of the Department of Homeland Security, DHS, and the source emphasizes her timing. She went on national television just hours after the killing.
Hours. That's almost unbelievable for a cabinet-level secretary to make such a grave, legally loaded declaration about an unarmed U.S. citizen before any real investigation could have possibly even started.
It's stunning. But when you look at it through the lens of narrative control, as the source does, it starts to make a kind of cynical sense. The political utility of that label is immense.
What does it accomplish for them in that moment?
The source says it does three things at once. First, it retroactively justifies what the agent did. If it's terrorism, the shooting is heroic, not questionable.
Okay.
Second, it completely shifts the conversation. We're no longer talking about federal overreach or a bungled operation. Now we're talking about national security.
And third?
And third, that label, domestic terrorism, it's designed to scare people. It strikes fear into the public mind, and when people are scared, they stop asking critical questions.
The source is really blunt about this. It calls it a televised flash judgment.
And propaganda, not reporting. That's a direct quote. The source is arguing that the head of federal law enforcement was essentially telling the country what reality to believe before anyone knew the facts.
It's narrative imposition. That's the term they use.
It is. The goal is to preempt any other facts from getting a foothold. Frame the victim as a terrorist, and the conversation changes completely. It's no longer, why did an ICE agent kill an unarmed woman?
It becomes, how do we protect our brave officers from these violent extremists?
Exactly. It's a calculated rhetorical masterstroke if your goal is to control public perception.
Let's dig into the details that Secretary Noem gave, because she didn't just throw the label out there. She tried to build a little story around it.
She did, yeah. The source points to the reporting from FOX9 in Minneapolis, and she starts with this really strange, specific detail. She claimed the vehicle was supposedly stuck in the snow.
And the source immediately flags that, says it makes no sense with the video or eyewitness accounts.
Right. It seems like a weird detail to just invent. So you have to ask, like the source does, why introduce the snow at all?
What's the strategic purpose of that detail?
Well, think about it. If a car is stuck in the snow, what does that imply? It implies the driver is acting erratically, right? Maybe panicking, spinning the wheels, moving unpredictably. It paints a picture of chaos.
And that picture lends credibility to the idea that the car was being used dangerously. It weakens the idea that she was in control and just trying to, drive away.
Precisely. It's a subtle way to start building the vehicle as a weapon narrative before you even say those words. It's a deflection.
So after the snow detail, she goes for the direct accusation.
Yeah, she claims Renee Good attacked the officers and attempted to run them over. And the conclusion, therefore, is that IC acted defensively.
And then she ties it all together with the big political label.
Domestic terrorism. The source argues that term, in this context, is a political weapon. It's meant to strike fear into minds and justify military-style enforcement.
If the victim is an extremist, then the lethal force isn't just justified. It's celebrated.
In the federal view, yes, it becomes a necessary action to protect the country.
So if we look at what the source says was the federal priority here, what was missing from Noam's statement? It seems like the omissions are just as important as the claims.
They're everything. The source points out there is a total lack of anything related to accountability or empathy.
Nothing about transparency.
No promise to release body cam footage. No promise to release IC-owned video. Nothing.
No call for an independent investigation.
Nope. No sense of sorrow. No empathy for the family of the woman who just died at the hands of her agency. Nothing.
So the priority wasn't truth. It wasn't justice. It wasn't even compassion.
The priority, according to the source, was purely defending federal authority on TV. It was about establishing their version of events as the first and only truth before any real evidence could get in the way.
It's the first truth concept. That initial headline that frames everything that comes after.
And that's a powerful tool when you have the platform of a cabinet secretary. They create this institutional truth delivered with incredible speed and weight.
And it's that institutional truth that makes the counter evidence so powerful and so necessary.
Exactly. Which brings us to Section 3, the contradictory evidence and the local opposition. Because the reality that was delivered from on high was not the reality on the ground.
This is where the whole thing pivots, right? From the top-down story to the bottom-up truth.
It's a critical shift in the sources, and the most important point is where the truth actually came from. It's telling that no official agency released any video.
Not ICE, not DHS. And the news networks, initially, they weren't running the footage that was out there either.
So the source of the counter-narrative, the actual facts, was completely decentralized. The source says, ordinary people filmed what really happened and posted it online.
That's a fundamental shift in how power is held accountable.
It changes the entire equation of trust. A few decades ago, we would have just had to wait for the official, edited, sanctioned release of footage from the government.
If it ever came at all.
Right. But in this case, the raw, unedited truth just bypassed all the official channels. It's because regular people became journalists in that moment. Their phones became tools of accountability.
So let's get into what that footage actually showed.
Yeah.
The source says it was completely incompatible with what Secretary Noam was claiming on TV.
It was. Citing analysis from FOX4 in Dallas, the source breaks down the video evidence point by point, and each point directly attacks one of the pillars of that official story.
Okay, so first, the video shows she was approached by agents, but her path was constrained. What did that mean?
It means she was boxed in. The agents created a situation where her ability to just drive away safely was severely limited, if not impossible. That's a huge detail. It suggests they initiated and controlled the encounter.
And the second point is the big one, the one that refutes the whole attack narrative. She was shot while trying to move her vehicle away from them.
That is the pivotal piece of evidence. Moving away is retreat. It's evasion. It is the literal opposite of an aggressive attack.
So the self-defense claim it starts to crumble right there.
It falls apart, or at the very least, it becomes so much more complicated that you can't just declare it justified on TV hours later. If she was trying to flee the confrontation, the entire premise of the federal story is wrong.
And to undermine the attempted to run them over claim even more, the source says there's no clear evidence of that at all.
None. In fact, eyewitnesses claim the SUV was moving slowly.
Lily, that's the opposite of an attack.
It's a complete factual rupture. You have the federal narrative of stuck in the snow, attacking violently on one side, and the street reality of moving slowly, trying to maneuver away on the other. It's two different universes.
And the tragic end to all of this, the part the video makes so horrifically clear, is that the agent shot her at point-blank range through the window.
Yeah. And that visual evidence, captured by citizens and shared by citizens, is what changed everything. The source's conclusion here is really stark.
What's that?
That if that footage hadn't come out, the federal narrative delivered with all the authority of the DHS secretary would have just become the truth. It would have been the official record.
And the source calls that scenario dangerous.
Inherently dangerous. A world where institutional power can just erase facts that are inconvenient to it.
But the disruption wasn't just on social media. This evidence forced an official response from the local government, that seems incredibly rare.
It's extraordinary. You almost never see this kind of high-level public fight between different levels of government happening in real time, and it was all because of the citizen footage.
And the official who really stepped up was the mayor of Minneapolis, Jacob Frey.
Yeah. In his response, after he saw the video, it was not polite. It was not diplomatic.
No, the source quotes him from Bring Me the News. He called the self-defense story garbage and bullshit.
I mean, just imagine that. The mayor of a major American city on the record calling the official story from the Secretary of Homeland Security bullshit.
It's a profound breakdown of trust.
It is. It's the local government, which is responsible for the safety of its citizens, essentially saying, we believe our eyes and the evidence from the street, not the spin from the federal government. He must have been incredibly confident in what that video showed to use language that strong. He was basically drawing a line in the sand.
But here's the really interesting part, the part the source highlights about how media and power work. Even after the mayor's statement, this direct, angry contradiction, some major media outlets were still running with the federal spin hours later.
Still presenting Noam's version as the default narrative.
Exactly. So the headline would be framed as, ICE claims self-defense and fatal shooting, mayor disagrees.
Instead of what the evidence suggested, which was more like, video contradicts federal claim in fatal ICE shooting.
Precisely. The federal claim, even when it's been debunked by the mayor of the city where it happened, still gets top billing. The source says this is just a perfect example of how power gets protected.
The institutional voice is just. It's louder. It carries more weight, even when it's wrong.
It gets the first headline. The contradictory facts have to fight their way into the story later. So we have this clear conflict, the official story versus the video evidence and the local government. Let's zoom out now in section 4 and talk about what the source says this all means for trust, for media, for everything.
Yeah, this is where the source gets into the bigger systemic arguments. It's about the machinery of narrative control and what that does to a democracy.
The critique of the media is pretty harsh, that they just prioritize the official statements over the reality on the ground.
It's a critique of process, really. The source argues that what we see on, cable news or network broadcasts is fundamentally shaped by access, influence, and political pressure.
And access is the key word there.
It's the currency of journalism in many ways. Federal officials, they're always available. They have press secretaries. They put out statements. They give you these neat, tidy, prepackaged narratives that are easy to turn into a news story.
Right. It's a clean, simple story. Agent defended himself.
It is. And the source contrasts that with the other side. When the DHS secretary speaks, cameras roll. But when ordinary people speak, even when they have video proof,
we get silence.
Until social platforms force the issue. That's the quote. The platform of power is just bigger.
So that means the federal story, the self-defense story, becomes the first thing millions of people hear and see. It sets the frame.
And that imbalance, the source says, isn't journalism, it's narrative control. The sheer institutional weight of the federal claim creates this kind of informational gravity, and the actual facts have to struggle to escape it.
The source also makes the case that this is bigger than one shooting. It's not just a tragic accident.
No, they frame it as a federal operation using militarized force in an American city. That's a very different frame. It shifts the focus from the actions of one agent to the policies of an entire agency.
And the response to the death that resulted, it just reveals their priorities.
It does. When their operation killed someone, the first instinct wasn't transparency or accountability. The first instinct was defense and narrative control.
It's the core argument about power. They didn't say, this is a tragedy, we will find out what happened.
No, they said, This was terrorism, and our agent was right. They declared the justification before any impartial investigation could even begin.
And that premature judgment, that's the real mechanism of control. It tries to end the debate before it starts.
And the source points to the results. We still haven't seen the ICE footage. There's been no federal apology, just political spin designed to protect the agency.
So in this case, the truth had to be forced into the open entirely from the bottom up by citizens with phones and a local mayor with a conscience.
Which leads us right to the source's final conclusion. It presents this whole incident as a proof point for 3 big claims about how our world works right now.
Okay, let's go through them. What's the first proof point?
It's about the ultimate cost of unchecked power. It's blunt. Federal power without accountability kills. The source is saying Renee Nicole Good's death is the direct result of a system where the default response to failure is self-protection, not correction.
And the second proof point is aimed at the media.
Right. It goes back to that imbalance we talked about. Media that amplifies those voices without skepticism protects power. The argument is that when the media just acts as a megaphone for official statements in a crisis, it becomes part of the protective shield around that power, whether it intends to or not.
They're saying skepticism should be the default setting when you're talking to power.
Especially in the first hours of a crisis.
Okay, and the third proof point. This one feels different, almost optimistic in a way.
It is, in a way. It's about the shift in how information flows. It says, truth no longer flows reliably from institutions. It flows from the people who record it.
So it elevates the citizen with the phone. They become the essential check and balance against a state-controlled story.
Exactly. It suggests that public trust in institutions has eroded so much that we now have to rely on this kind of decentralized, crowdsourced verification.
That is a massive change in how a society agrees on what's real. Which is why the source ends with this big warning. Do not let power redefine this moment.
Because the fear is that this is a test case. If they can successfully rewrite the story of an unarmed citizen's death now using these tactics, the high-level declarations, the scary political labels.
They could do it again. They could redefine the next one too.
Yeah.
This is the playbook.
This incident is the template for how state power uses rapid narrative control to get ahead of the facts and shut down dissent.
Wow, okay. That is a deeply challenging analysis. Let's try to synthesize this for everyone listening. There's a lot to process here about how we get our information.
There is. The central conflict is crystal clear. It's the immediate, extreme federal claim of self-defense and terrorism on one side.
And on the other, you have the raw, contradictory video from eyewitnesses, which was then backed up by the defiant stance of the Minneapolis mayor.
And the key tactic from the federal side was the speed. The speed with which the Secretary of Homeland Security herself went on TV to apply that terrorism label, trying to shut down the conversation before the video could even go viral.
And we really can't say it enough. The citizen footage was everything. The source argues it was the only reason there was a counter-narrative at all. It forced everyone, the media and local government, to deal with the facts.
Without that decentralized proof, the official version, that Renee Nicole Good was a domestic terrorist, that could have easily become the accepted historical record, unchallenged.
So this whole thing is a case study, a lesson in the mechanics of narrative control. The goal was to justify lethal force before it could be questioned.
And shift the whole conversation away from accountability for an unarmed citizen's death and turn it into a debate about national security.
Which means when powerful institutions make these huge claims that seem to defy common sense or that come out with unbelievable speed, the source demands that we meet that with radical skepticism.
So what does that leave you with? As a listener, you're navigating this world where stories are created faster than facts can be checked, where a cabinet secretary can just declare something terrorism an hour after it happens.
The source leaves us with a really provocative final thought. It comes from that warning about power redefining reality.
And it's this. If the core story of a citizen's death, a death in broad daylight of an unarmed, uninvolved person, can be so aggressively and immediately rewritten by power, what does that mean for the reliability of any official information we get in the next crisis?
That's the challenge, right? When you can't trust that the truth will flow from the institutions designed to inform you.
Yeah.
How do you decide what's real? And what's the responsibility of the person who just happens to be there, holding the phone, recording the counter evidence?
That shift in responsibility from the institution to the individual citizen, that might be the biggest change of all that the sources are highlighting.
Stay engaged. Practice that active skepticism. And always ask not just what happened.
But who is telling the story? Why are they telling it right now? And what evidence is out there outside the official story that challenges it?
And that is where we'll leave this deep dive.
All right, that's going to do it for this episode of Spill the Real right here on SugarWaterRadio.
If today's conversation hit heavy, that's because it should have. A life was lost, a story was twisted, and silence would have made us complicit.
We want to remind you this episode continues on video. The footage, the visuals, and the receipts matter. Make sure you tap in, watch, and see what they tried to keep off the screen.
If this episode made you uncomfortable what I did, that means the truth reached you.
Make sure you subscribe, follow, and share this episode wherever you're listening. Don't let the algorithm bury this. Let the people know the truth still lives right here.
If you believe in independent voices and real conversations, support the movement. Donations help keep Sugar Radio alive. CashApp, SugarWaterRadio. Every bit counts.
Big love to our sponsors, the Sugar family, and everyone who refuses to look away when things get ugly.
This is Dana Lucen and Mark Miller reminding you.
Don't just hear the truth, sit with it.
Until next time.
Stay sharp, stay real, and keep your eyes open.
We're out.
No! No! Shame! Shame! Oh my fucking god! What the fuck? What the fuck? You just fucking... What the fuck did you do? You are fucking criminals! You're fucking criminals! What the fuck? What the fuck? What the actual fuck? You are fucking insane! What did you do? You! Shame! 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 Dude, what's happening to her? What happened? Dude. Okay. Dude, you shot her! I'm trying to help! No! No! You fucking shot someone in the fucking face! You shot someone in the fucking face! Do you have a conscience? Do you have a conscience? Don't let the murderer leave! Don't let the murderer leave! You guys are the fucking criminals! You don't get to tell us what to do! Fucking criminals! Don't let him leave! Don't let him leave!
Pussy motherfuckers, man.
No! Get the fuck out of our neighborhood! Yeah, it's a fucking crime! We fucking know it! We're here! Yeah, like what the absolute fuck, man? What the absolute fuck? Do you have a conscience? Do you have a conscience? Do you have a conscience? This is the time, man. This is the time to have a conscience. This is not okay. This is not okay. Get a fucking conscience.
Can you look at me and tell me you're doing the right thing? Get the fuck out of here, bro. You didn't fire any weapons. Fucking your people did, man.
In the head. In the head.
I didn't do anything. And she dropped me the murderer. You, look at me. Look at me. You can't even...
Watch out, man! Watch out!
Why don't you look at me? I thought you could do it.
No, you're fine. You can stay here. If you move somewhere, just let me know when you're better.
You okay, mommy?